So you could sit either cross-legged to start with, or you could take the soles of the feet together. So just check out how your hips are feeling this morning and which is more comfortable. And you want to kind of tune into the knees and what they like best. And as you sit, just allow for a little bit of a movement. It could be that you're going to start with a rocking movement to just kind of sense into the lower back and this articulation where the hips, what hips are constructed of is your thighs and your pelvis. So your pelvis is rolling, and right now your thigh bones are the ones that are still. But then just see how the breath wants to move. So very often we are so used to inhaling when the front gets broad and then exhaling, squeezing as we squeeze the breath out. And sometimes I like to mix it up and I inhale into my back when I'm rounding. And just also give some of that spacious feeling to the back body. But then consider that there are other ways to move from here. What if you don't move so much, like the main kind of initiator is not the pelvis, but what if the ribs are saying, oh, we want to explore some options as well? And I'm not going to give you a shape. You're just going to draw your attention to the ribs. Sometimes it helps to touch them to help the mind really locate that area in the body. And let the hips lead the movement. And your hips are going to stay moving, and what other parts of the body are going to respond. And let this be like this gentle morning wake up when you find as if you're cleaning some cobwebs from the inside of your rib basket. Give it a couple of more breaths, and what you could experiment with, maybe for some of you, for some hips, there is an easy way to also come a little bit forward. So the stimulation changes, the coming into that flexion from the hips, it's going to change how you feel it in the hips. And for some of you, it means that you might need to change the position of the legs and slide the feet away a little bit. And if you were sitting cross-legged, you could consider coming into that butterfly shape like I am, soles of the feet together. And we're going to find a moment of pause and let yourself kind of make micro movements towards it. So like a minute of yin to ease into our body. So we've done a bit of cleaning of the cobwebs, and you find an easy edge, we call it the edge, where there's not overly intense sensations in the body. So it's still quite pleasurable. Maybe there's a certain tugging or stretchiness somewhere, but it allows for that spacious breath to create room in the back of the body. And so you're working together with your nervous system, right? So we're not pushing, we're not forcing anything upon our body, our tissues. We're collaborating. And just spend a moment. So we've taken a shape, and what is this shape showing you this morning? What are you sensing when you pause? There is one way how we are aware when we're in movement. There might be a little bit more stimulation coming in, and then in stillness we might have a different reaction from our mind. So notice, how is your body-mind receiving stillness this morning? And there's no right or wrong way, there's just connecting with what's showing up. So consider this practice. There are different ways we can stimulate our tissues, and it's the same way, the different way we can offer opportunities to get to know our mind and get to practice being responsive rather than reactive. Let's give it another couple of breaths here. And always the morning body experience is a different experience than the evening body experience. Let's give it another breath in and another slow breath out. And I'll begin to curl upwards. So I'll walk my hands up. I lean back onto the hands. I take the soles of the feet onto the mat. Just give it a little moment before we take in the next move. Just let yourself feel. And then we'll move on to the windshield wiper movement, where the feet, you can play with the distance. You could start to drop the knees from side to side. You can turn your head to the opposite side. The way I like to play with this is we'll first do when the knees are dropping at the same time. Sometimes it's called like a log roll, so things are moving at the same time. And then next time when you're over at the left side, let your right knee lead. So we're going to explore with the right knee, what is the edge of this movement? We call it external rotation without moving the pelvis. And then when it reaches its soft edge, no forcing, no pinching in the hips, that's when I'm going to let the pelvis move and the knees are going to roll over to the right. And then the left knee will start. So this might slow you down a little bit because we need to pay attention. We need to notice, okay, where is my edge? We noticing, okay, at first I'm isolating that movement, just the thigh moving, and then I'm going to allow this kinetic chain to also move the pelvis and move the spine. So again, awareness through movement. And when before we were moving our pelvis around the thigh bones, then now we're doing a little bit of both. The thigh bone is moving within the hip socket, and then the pelvis is moving. All right. We're going to pause when the knees are over on the left side. And at first you're going to stay with the torso kind of facing where the toes are facing, and you start to lift and lower that right knee. So the same movement that we did, but we're just going to stay a little bit turned over to the left. And you can experiment. So I've been kind of leaning back. You could also come a little bit higher with your torso, and that's going to completely change the experience in the hip. No pinching, no pain, no forcing, right? So go a few more times with that right knee, exploring this movement of rotating outward externally and then coming inwardly towards the ground. We'll go just one more round. Oiling the joints in the body. And the next time when the right knee lifts, I'm going to let again the movement draw me over to that. No, that's your right knee, to the right side. I decided to mirror, and then halfway through I was like, it's too early for mirroring. All right, so we're going to continue working with that right thigh, the front hip. So now, instead of facing where the toes are facing, I'm going to face my torso over towards that right knee. And you can change the heel position. It doesn't have to be 90 degrees. And you can place that left knee also anywhere you want. So as long as it's not hurting in this left hip. And start to lean forward, much like we did in the butterfly shape. Start to lean forward to a soft edge. So remember, heel can move, back hip can move, and I'm going to come to a soft edge. And where you're going to feel this is in that right bum, maybe in the lower back area. And we stay again for about a minute, softening through the jaw, softening through the eyes. Sometimes maybe even noticing like your soles of the feet and the palms of the hands softening. Weird places are gripping in the body. So have a little scan that what can easily let go. And accompany this with soft breath, nice and relaxed belly, soft jaw. So again, yes, we're doing our so-called like a hip opening, but we're actually working through our nervous system. Settling at an edge and communicating safety. It is safe to hang out here. So about 3 more breaths. Soft, steady breath. And I'll stay at the edge that I was in for a little bit longer, but what I'll start to do now is I'll start to press that right shin bone and knee into the ground. So I'm creating action in the outer hip, in the muscular that's doing the external rotation. So for another 2 seconds, pressing the right thigh shin bone into the ground and then releasing that action. So nothing really moved, but it was pressing down. And then I'm going to bring my left hand onto the inner right knee. Again, nothing moves, but I'm going to press the hand against the knee and the knee against the hand. So now I'm activating the inner thigh muscles. I'm again relaxing my jaw, another 2 counts. And then relaxing and letting that go. And then do that on your own 1 more time. So stay at that comfortable edge, press downward for about 3-4 seconds. If anything's cramping, then come a little bit higher up and do a little bit less. Relax it. And then do the pushing hand and knee into each other for about 2 or 3 seconds. Or 3 and 4 seconds. Perfect. And then release. And then stay at that edge for another 2-3 breaths and just notice the sense of spaciousness in that hip socket. Sometimes we can even lean in a little bit more, but that's not my goal. My goal is just to kind of feel, is there any difference? Give it 1 more breath. And then let yourself walk up and away. Turn your chest back, facing where the toes were facing or feet are facing, so you can bring the knees back up and slide for a moment both legs straight to just observe the right leg, the left leg. Give it another breath in and give it another breath out from here. Excellent. We'll do the other side. So the feet come onto the mat, and let's start with the windshield wiper movement. So now you kind of know where we're going, so that can also make it change how we experience. We're doing the log roll where knees go at the same time. Then we experiment, what if one knee leads? What if we create this chain of movements through the joints where one joint moves and then we see the other joint. Once the knees go over to the right side next, I'm turning my attention into my left hip as I lift and lower the left knee. And this hip might have a completely different feel to it. So you honor again whatever you notice, whatever restrictions you notice, we honor that. Play with either staying further back or walking higher up. And how you make those choices, you learn to listen. You learn to really feel and listen the feedback from the body. We stay with comfortable ranges right now. Next time when my left knee is lifting, I'm going to let the pelvis rotate, turn me over, and I'm going to face more over that left knee. Again, choose a position for the right knee, for the left foot, as you begin to find that comfortable edge. So we take like a minute of yin, gradually walking yourself to an edge where you feel sensation in that left bum, but it's not intense. Let's stay for about a minute with our awareness, staying with, exploring, being curious about the sensations. And you can experiment. It's really, I find it interesting to play with. Do I zoom in and notice where I feel the posture, and where are the more like the intense sensation or sensations that are more louder? But sometimes it's also helpful to also tune into areas that actually are quieter. How is my left big toe doing? Or feeling into the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet, and finding a degree more softness. Patience, curiosity, and willingness to experiment. These are kind of the foundations of a somatic practice. And we'll bring the activation part in, where we're engaging now the structures around that left hip. So my first action was to press downward. Again, you don't have to give it your 100%, remember? You can also do 50%. You press down and then you relax that action. And then we do the pressing upward. It can help to bring that right hand to the inner knee and press the knee against the hand and the hand against the knee. Sometimes I come a little bit higher up with my torso to find that. Again, about 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and then relaxing that action. And doing that on your own again. So the pressing downward would be the external rotation muscle groups in your bum, in your outer thigh, and then they relax. And then bringing the knee in, abduction, so your inner thighs are mainly the ones you're recruiting. They learning to fire is another word that's used. And relaxing. And then checking out, has your edge changed, or just has the sense of that hip changed? Just a couple of more breaths as we hang out here. Perfect. Let us walk up. Let us turn back to the front. Take a little moment to slide the leg straight and connect to that left leg, left hip. You could be still, or you could be having little movements. Give it another breath in, another breath out. And then I'll bring another sequence in that is more focusing to the front of the hip. So this was more inner outer. So let's look at the front of the hip as well. So I'll start in a similar way. I'll drop the knees over to the right, yes. And they don't have to be in that 90 degree angle, but I'm leaning in and sitting on that right hip a little bit. Really should not have mirrored this morning. And I lean over to the right, and I'm attempting to lift that left leg up and then circling it forward, so my left hip can come down onto the ground. So I'm kind of like in a half boat pose. And so these are the hip flexors here in front of the hip working. You can experiment straightening and bending the knee if the hamstring allows that, but just for a moment holding this one-legged boat pose. Front of the hip is firing. Take a breath. And then I'll turn the toes inward so that I can take the leg back, possibly again floating it for a moment. Again, if there's cramping, do less, and settle it down onto the ground. We'll do that just one more time. So lean over to the right a bit so you can lift the hip. You can bring it forward. You can be in this one-legged boat pose, pausing for a moment, playing from here, lowering and lifting, and then turning the toes inward, floating the leg out again. Maybe it hovers a little bit above the ground, and then place it down onto the ground. Now bring your right foot and place it on the inside of that left knee, and bring the left heel a little bit closer. So we'll keep working with the front of that left hip. Lift the left bum off the ground and begin to spiral your torso, your hips, towards the space back behind you. So see if you feel it in front of that left hip, and then bring the hip back down and your torso also faces back down. So a few times. At first the hand could be on that hip so that you can feel that movement. Breath could be inhaling into it, exhaling coming out of it. You could add the hand. Sometimes we reach through that left hand, and the hand could go up, or experiment the hand sliding on the ground and sliding away. You can also invent your own movement. Some people like to lift the hips up, so you reach the hips forward, a little bit of weight bearing on that right arm. If I'm giving too many options and overwhelming you, then stay with the first option that I give you and ignore the rest. All right, we'll do one more. Awesome. And then as you come back, slide the feet again away so that we can change. The knees go up, and you rotate over to the other side. So I'm now leaning a little bit more over onto my left hip, and I'll play with lifting the right, circling the leg forward, letting that right hip come back onto the ground. So I'm in this half boat pose, engaging the hip flexors. Hang out here for a moment. Play with movement or be still. And then turn the toes in, float the leg, let it hover possibly for a moment unless it's cramping, and then settle it down. We'll do just one more. Leaning over, use the hands to ground yourself if you need, or the hands could be floating so the core is holding you up. Again, a little half of a boat pose. And then toes turn in, so there's this inner rotation in the leg as you draw the leg back, and then it settles on the ground. I'll hug the left heel closer to the bum, right heel closer to the bum, so the bum can go down onto the ground, and the left foot comes to the inner right thigh. This allows me more to experiment now with this rotation from here. So right hip lifts, pelvis turns, spine turns, torso turns, head turns, and then it unravels. What feels interesting to you here? What do you want to explore? Do you stay with most attention on the hip? Do you add the arm? Is the arm reaching up, or is it sliding along the ground? Give it another breath to explore, another couple of rounds. Experiment with slowness or speeding it up a little bit. What changes? Awesome. And the next time when you face back where your right knee is pointing, you can slide the heels again away a little bit so that you can bring the feet onto the mat and decide where is the top of your mat. So you're going to orient towards it. And we'll do one flow using a squat, and then I'll use another method to play with getting up from the ground. It might work for your knees, it might not. So we do the squat one first. That one everyone can play with. Getting up from the ground is a little thing of mine. Is I keep practicing it, and I'm hoping to, when I'm 80 or 90, I can still use these methods to get up from the ground. So I kind of used my hands to find myself in a squat. You can use any help here that you need. So if you need something under your heels or have a block nearby under your bum, give it a moment. You can explore movements with the spine here. And then we'll take it into a forward fold. So hands are on the ground. You might toe heel your feet a little bit closer. This is the first time we're now encountering more the backs of the legs. So spend a little moment here, possibly knees soft, letting the head hang, and a couple of times straightening the knees to a point where you feel the sensation at the back of the legs, and then you bend them again. Just a little good morning hello to the back line. And then I'm going to send my right leg to the back of the mat, taking the back knee down to a lunge. And let's take the hands on the inside for a moment. Possibly a little bit of circling through the hips. Couple of times moving the hips forward and then backward towards that back heel, bending into the front knee and straightening into the front knee again so that we can feel the back of that front leg. And we'll come up for a kneeling lunge, so you can toe heel that left foot a little bit closer to the midline, pressing down to rise. Finding again an edge here, so I keep pressing the front foot down as I play with the position of the hips, leaning them forward, leaning them back. Reach through the fingers, find space in the front, but also space in the back. Take a breath in. And then exhale, float the hands down, tuck the back toes and bring the back foot back to the front of the mat. We'll go back into the squat so your feet can walk wider, toes can point out, lowering down. And then we go for a moment, touch the bum back down onto the ground, and this time the boat pose is going to have both legs lifting. And you could hold onto the backs of the thighs, or you could keep the hands on the sides. And then we'll do the other side from here. So we're going to have the feet come down. We'll find a moment in the squat. We'll take ourselves into a forward fold, so a different type of a vinyasa, moving through a different focal point. Take your left leg back. You can move now at your own pace. We'll use the lunge as a little exploration, so it could be circles, it could be the hips moving forward and back. You can find your own pacing with it. Maybe at one point there's a kneeling lunge. Does it stay pulsing? Do you find a still point where you want to hang out for a bit? Allowing for a breath. And then slowly lowering, and we'll come back the same way, so that as the toes tuck, as the knee lifts, the foot is going to come forward, lowering into a squat. And then taking the hands back down. So this is the option one, but you might also do on the next round. This time, from my boat pose, I'm going to place my right foot on the ground, and the left foot is going to come underneath it like this, like as if you were sitting cross-legged and then you stepped your right foot on the ground. And this is what I mean. This left knee needs to be okay with what we're doing. So instead of coming into a squat, I'm going to play with kind of like I'm coming into a half squat. So I'm playing with lifting off the ground like this a few times. And so it engages my hips coming forward, but you're also going to really slow down the descent, and that's going to engage a lot of muscles around that left hip as you move back. If this is not working, come into a squat. Pause there for a few moments. And then those of you who are playing with this, next time when you step your right foot on the ground, either use your hands or play with not using your hands. How can you find yourself in a lunge, right? So you could put the hands down or they could stay lifted. If you were in a squat, step your left leg back. This time lift the back knee up, pause. Curl your tailbone under a bit, drop your head, and start to curl your spine up into a high lunge. Then when you arrive, see if you need to adjust your legs in any way. Take your hands, draw them up. Have a little moment here. And let's take the hands, interlock them behind the head. Open your elbows wide to the side. Let your front body open. Take a breath in. And then curl your elbows towards each other and curl downward and any amount. Just let your back body round and breathe out. And just do that one more time. And if it starts to get challenging and you're not in the mood for that, maybe put the back knee down onto the ground. One more. Good. Then we lower the hands. I'm going to bring that back foot, either step into a squat or bring that back foot knee again down onto the ground and slowly lower back. So either from a squat or from, I need to find a name for that move, we are back in our boat pose. Take another breath here. And then let's do the other side, or you're doing, and this side, the knee might be different, so if you need to do the squat version on this side, then do that. Otherwise, experiment a few times. And what I play with also in these ones is the position of the left foot. I step it a little bit out, I step it a little bit in. Awesome. Either from a squat or from this one-legged squat. Use your hands, or maybe without the hands, finding yourself in kind of a low lunge with the back knee lifted. Press down onto the ground. Curl your spine up. Curl your spine up. Find your balance. Find a position for the arms for a moment. And if you want to give that extra stimulation here for your balance, challenging your balance, but also stimulation for the spine, for the front body, do 1 or 2 rounds, hands behind the head. Curling. Excellent. Whoop. Take your hands to the ground, or maybe they still hover either into a squat or into that half squat with the right knee down on the ground. The toes point a little bit diagonally, and then one last time, leaning back. One last little boat pose moment. And then let's lower the legs and starting to lower onto the ground. So keep the feet grounded. Round your pelvis backward. So you're rolling back on the sit bones. And then slowly as you can, section by section or segment by segment, place your spine onto the ground. Good. Once you're on the back, just for a moment, let everything go. So let your legs flop, let your arms flop. Feel the back body on the ground. Feel the front body facing up towards the sky. Notice your breath. And then bring your feet on the mat when you're ready. Do just a couple of rounds of pelvic tilt. So arching the lower back away from the ground on the inhale and pressing the lower back onto the ground on the exhale. Usually this is our starting move. So find just a few rounds of that. Excellent. Then take your hands out and open. Walk your feet a little bit wider. Drop the knees from side to side. We do the log roll first, so both knees go to the one side. The head might roll to the opposite side. See how here on the back you can really move from the thighs being heavy and the heavy thighs dropping to gravity. So some of maybe the ambition and fieriness that moved in, let us now be water again. And next time when the knees drop to the right, lead with the left knee. So the left knee is going to, or left thigh is going to lift first. You're going to check where is the edge, where is the limit. Once it reaches, then the pelvis will follow, the right thigh will follow. So we'll do a few of those. Good. And then let's meet on the right side and lift and lower the left knee a couple of times from here. Keeping the pelvis steady. Good. Maybe one more. And then let the left knee lift. And draw it so that both knees are facing up towards the ceiling. And then take the left ankle over the right knee. So you have it in that threading the needle position. Press the left ankle and the right thigh against each other as you slowly bring the right thigh towards your chest. So the legs are going to come closer, but keep that resistant left ankle against the thigh against the ankle pressing, and then slowly move the right foot back onto the ground. Do that 2 more times. I'm moving slowly because I'm creating that resistance. So where you might receive it is the hip flexors on the right side, so that's the front of the hip, and then the external rotations, the bum area on that left side. Do just one more. Hug it in. So we keep it active, we keep them engaged, the muscles. And then next time when it comes in, then thread the hands, so left from the middle, right from the outside, interlock the hands where you can, and now let that pressure go between the ankle and the thigh. You're going to draw the knee in just to a point again where you feel the sensation in that left buttock. Then check your jaw. And play with me with the jaw. Open your mouth as wide as you can. And then close it. Do that one more time. Open the mouth as wide as you can. And then close it. Next time when you open, When you start to close, really slowly close it gradually and close it to a point where you feel that you're neither forcing your mouth open and neither are you forcing your mouth closed. Is there that position where you can really feel the jaw relaxing? Give it another breath in. Give it another breath out. And then begin to release the hands. Take both feet back onto the mat. Take a breath in and take a slow, steady breath out. Then do 1 or 2 round pelvic tilts, arch and flatten. You inhale, arch. You exhale, pressing the lower back onto the ground. Open your arms wide. Then walk your feet a bit wider. Keep the spine now in that neutral position. When you start to drop the knees from side to side a few times, windshield wiper movement, head might roll to the opposite direction. Then let the right knee lead and left knee and pelvis follow for 1 or 2 rounds. Next time when your knees are over on the left side, pause and lift and lower just the right knee. Just a couple of times. Reach it towards the ground and then lift it up to a point where it still feels comfortable around the hip. Next time when your knee lifts, let the pelvis come along, come to a point where both knees are facing up towards the ceiling. Take your right ankle over the left knee. Create resistance between the ankle and the knee as you slowly bring the left knee towards the chest, but the right ankle is also pressing as if it doesn't want the knee to come to the chest. And move like this a couple of times. Slowly the foot comes back towards the ground. Your core switches on. Keep your lower back grounded more or less, especially the lower rib area, that midsection area. So now I'm not doing the arch and flattening. And next time when you have the left thigh come close, release that resistance and use your hands to hold the thigh in place. So thread the right hand from the center, take the left hand from the outside. Take a little walk through the body. What can soften here? Know that each shape can have little micro movements always. Also this one, it can be interesting to shift the left thigh a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. Finding the sweet spot. Perfect. Give it another breath in. Another breath out. Come to release. Take the feet onto the mat. Take a breath. Then see if the body needs anything else. Does it need a wiggle? Does it need a twist? How do you want to finish from here? Or you want to continue practicing? I'll hold space for a couple of minutes of silence, so you could take that on your back, on your side. You could take that in a yin shape or in seated meditation. And if you want to finish at your own timing, then feel free to silence me or leave the meeting so you can have your own time with this. I'll hold. And if you know that this was the time you had, consider before you move just allowing for a little bit of a longer breath to come in, whether you're lying down or seated. Feel the breath in the side body, feel the breath in the back body, top of the lungs, not forcing it. And then stay with the long, steady exhale out. Do one more of this. Allow the inhale breath to energize. And then the exhale breath, the slowness of it to really ground and center yourself. And if you are lying down, what would be the kindest way to make a transition that's not abrupt? I'll meet you seated for just a little anchoring at the end to bring attention to what is the harvest of the practice, what is in the foreground. And if there is an intention or a gesture that you want to bring in, that could maybe ripple out into your day and your weekends. Thank you so much for being here.